This is the Inquisitive Minds Podcast.
Hey, thank you for tuning into the Inquisitive Minds Podcast. I'm your host, as usual, Johnny Smith. With me today, we have a whole family. With the father being an analyst in a specific government agency, which we won't talk about because I think it makes it more fascinating. The owner of Ways of Hayes Fitness, LLC. They're both writers of upcoming books. And the whole family dabbles in modeling and acting. Welcome to the program, Scott, Sarah, Gavin, and Xander.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, thanks for coming on. Now, you guys say in your bio that you are firm believers in the law of attraction, and you've stated it numerous times. So I'm very curious, first off, what is it and how do you apply it?
Correct. So it's just manifesting basically your faith into reality. And it's the law of basically everything is made out of energy.
Okay.
And vibrates on a certain level. And let's say you want we'll use a vehicle, say a Lamborghini.
Okay.
Make it exciting. And you focus on that Lamborghini, you focus on that vehicle, you actually change the vibration, the atoms, and within that Lamborghini to vibrate towards you. This involves a lot. You can't just think about it. You have to picture yourself driving that Lamborghini, going down the interstate, holding that steering wheel, the feel of it. So you have to attach emotion to it.
Okay.
All
right.
You have to attach emotion. When you attach emotion.
And that you guys use that, and that works for you?
We do. We keep a vision board at home, and we all four have our own little place, and whatever we want, we just print off a picture and stick it up there so we can look at it and focus on it. Kind of comes naturally to Xander. He's the most confident person you'll ever meet in your life. He goes to auditions, and he says, yeah, I'll get the part. And he does.
Well, that's a good segue. And Xander, tell me about yourself. You do some acting?
Yeah, I've been in a good bit of movies. I think 5 movies. I think
it's 6 now.
6 movies.
6 movies.
Which is a anti-bullying movie named Zombie Club. Like a low budget police movie.
Speak it.
Police movie named Dispatch. A horror movie called Midnight. Another low budget movie called Being Trump.
I love it. Throw in the shade right away.
There's a reason for that.
Oh yeah, Who Do You Say I Am? That's a short film.
Okay.
Like a Christian religious movie. What was the 6th one?
Well, we actually filmed one, but then it kind of got pulled. There was a messy situation. We have that. We keep losing count because we'll get parts in movies, or we'll actually go film movies and then they never get made. So I think is it 5 that you've actually completed that are being made? Yeah, maybe.
And Gavin, you're an actor as well?
Nah, not really.
No.
Yeah, that's more his thing. Just kind of do my own thing.
Okay, well, just out of curiosity, what is your thing?
Honestly, I don't know yet. Like, I mean, I tried the acting, tried a little bit of modeling, just didn't really seem to fit me.
Okay.
Didn't seem to be my thing. So.
Okay, that's fair enough. I will say, from the law of attraction, it seems to be working for you guys, because I see a successful family. Now, do you act as well, either one of you?
Xander pretty much started it, and so we kind of got into it with him, and I ended up being extras in most of his movies, and I just was around it because I was taking him to do it, and kind of opened up my eyes to like, wait a minute, I can do this too. And I've only done one thing without him so far, but I like it. It's a lot of fun.
Coming through the entertainment industry, I believe that's how we met on Pittsburgh Entertainment Industry Networking page.
Yep.
And first off, thank you for coming on. I want to thank all of you guys specifically because, it's not always easy to get people to travel. You guys came from Charleston?
Actually, Fairmont.
Fairmont?
About an hour and a half.
West Virginia?
We like Pittsburgh, so.
Yeah, any excuse to come here.
You guys had lunch beforehand?
We did at DeLuca's.
Okay. Now, you've always had a penchant for fighting for what's right or trying to pursue justice,
Sure.
even as a little child. But growing up, school wasn't your thing.
It was not my thing. How far back do you want to go?
Let's just go to high school. Let's
High
rock
school.
with high school.
Okay, so yeah, I had a lot of issue with authority. I still do. Almost joined the military a couple of times, but knew that it wouldn't work out. But yeah, the struggle in school, not so much with the academic side of it, but I guess somewhat academic, because I felt that what I was learning was not going to translate to normal life.
Absolutely.
The thing with school, I'm going to talk bad about school for a little bit. You ever heard about the story of Icarus and Daedalus?
Yeah.
Okay.
Flying too close to the sun?
Exactly. And that's how they told it up until about the 1700s. They told it differently up until the 1700s. The real story is, Daedalus, Icarus got on the desert. Daedalus makes his son some wings. He tells him not to fly too high or the wax will melt. He'll fall to his death. Also, he told him not to fall or not to fly too low, because the mist from the water would ruin the wax. He would fall to his death.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they only told, since the 1700s, they told the story of don't fly too high. They never said don't fly too low.
Okay.
All right, so in the 1700s, school was created. You know why school was created? Public school?
No, I don't.
It was created by factory owners to create compliant factory workers out of fear that people can go off and do their own thing. That's why school was set up in the way that it is.
School was not my thing either. I am a fellow GED recipient. I could not do it. It's not for me. But I understand that. So you immediately touched on, though, you are opposed to authority, which is fascinating, because at around 30 years old, which seems a little bit later in life, you became a police officer.
He wants to be the authority.
He respect my authority.
There's plenty of positions I could have went into where I had just as much authority as a police officer.
Yeah.
It wasn't about that. It was about just wanting to do good.
What
do good to the good and do bad to the bad.
Yeah. What led you down the road? Like, where did you come up one day and say, you know what, I should join the police force?
I mean, it started when I was a kid, I mentioned some of the shows I used to watch, like Miami Vice was the ultimate. That was the one that really got me thinking about law enforcement.
Dukes of Hazzard.
Dukes of Hazzard.
A-Team. I love the A-Team.
Yeah.
Chips.
All those shows where you had people fighting for good. I think even MacGyver's in there.
Yeah. G.I. Joe.
Yeah. You could always find me with some toy guns around my waist and knives. So it was always a part of me. And then as I got older, it stayed with me. And when I was a teenager, I was quite a troublemaker.
Welcome to the club. Anybody that's listening to the podcast knows that.
Yeah.
I actually threatened to leave him because I had to talk to the police once, and I said I will never do that again for something that you did.
You know what? Let's jump into that, though.
Life, but for her, it wasn't. So.
Let's jump into that real quick. You guys met in high school. You got together, 16?
I'm actually 2 years older. He was 16. We had just had our birthdays. We just had our birthdays in November 22nd and 25th, but he was 16 and I was 18. Mm-hmm. And the law of attraction, he was using it way back then. He just didn't know what it was because he was a freshman and I was a junior, and people kept coming up. You know who Scott Hayes is? I'm like, no, I don't know who he is. He thinks you're the hottest girl in the school. Mm-hmm. So I'm hearing this for like a year. Yeah. And I was like, well, he's cute. He'll be cute when he gets older. And then we ended up having common friends, and lots of things happened. We ended up moving in together as teenagers in high school, like 2 weeks after we started dating.
Oh, wow.
Life circumstances, that sometimes things just happen, and we moved in, and January 7th is when we decided to call it official, and I was already living there by February.
Okay, and you guys have been together ever since?
1997.
How many years is this?
It will be 24 years, January
24
7th.
years. I tell you what, I am a sop for a love story like that, and I'm gonna be honest. When I was reading about this, I teared up a little bit. It's beautiful. It's good to see us, and it's nice to see a family that's seems to work together, and and get through it all?
Well, I'll tell you that she straightened me up. So I mentioned being a troublemaker. A lot of it I cannot go into. But kicked out of school multiple times for fighting, skipping school, smoking in the bathroom. I just didn't care about anything.
Smoking in the bathroom, not to interrupt.
Yeah.
It feels like a real 1950s thing to do. Like, what happened to you? I was smoking in the bathroom.
Does that still even occur, Gavin? Is that a thing?
People
It's-
don't-
it's
they don't
va-
smoke
it's
cigarettes.
vaping in the bathroom
yeah,
now.
they vape in the
Yeah.
bathroom.
Wow. So yeah, she kind of gave me an ultimatum. As she mentioned, she was questioned about the police, or from the police.
Because I was 18 and he
for
was
something
16.
I did.
And I was going to get in trouble because I was the adult.
Yeah.
And I'm sure they were just trying to threaten me, whatever, you know.
Oh, yeah, trying to make you
Yeah,
fold,
you know.
We'll throw the
We know
book at you.
everything. You've
Yeah.
already, such and such is right.
I'd never
already
even
told us
talked to the
what's going
police
on.
before. That was my first time. I was a good girl,
Yeah.
kind of.
So she gave me an ultimatum: said either straighten up or I'm done. And I cared about her definitely enough to straighten up, and most of the way did.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. So at 30, you become a cop. How's the experience for you? Because you're an older rookie than
Sure.
I would assume the others.
Yeah, so I got into that time when I was a teenager. We'll just go back a little bit.
Okay.
And of course, I had a lot of run-ins with the law that were not good. Totally caused by me. Something that no fault of the police. Definitely deserved it, but
I want to. He was just like kind of like a hellraiser. He was never into like drugs or anything like that. He would just put garbage bags in the middle of the road so people would, hit him with. It was stupid.
that's some mild stuff.
Mild. I mean, yeah.
so
I mean, that's.
never got into drugs.
So you're not stabbing single mothers. You're just playing bad pranks
No,
on me.
nothing violent other than fights I got in, with
Okay.
people my age. But
To be fair, though, I would want to fight, too, if you threw my garbage in the middle of the road or if I ran it over.
yeah. Well, I think the only time she's been shot at was with me.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, we're not going to skim over that.
I think that was prior to the ultimatum too.
We used to have this fascination with going to abandoned houses, and we chose the wrong abandoned house one time. And
Well, that was one time. But
Oh,
one time
okay.
I specifically targeted a child molester. And he-
First off, you're not saying anything wrong yet.
We were
you
doing
know.
some stuff to his house, and he came outside and kept egging him on, and boom, shotgun blast.
Oh, yeah?
Right our way. Yeah,
he
pretty
plastered
close.
me to the ground because I wanted to run.
Pretty close,
Yeah.
too.
He wouldn't let me run.
Yeah.
I don't,
So just a
I'm
couple
glad
stories.
you didn't get hurt, but I don't think you necessarily did anything wrong there. Again, though, I know it's 2020, and from your general ages, I can point out where the time frame this happens. But going to an abandoned houses and getting shot at by some kooky guy is another night. What are you, Scooby-Doo, guys? Like, I love it. It's so charming. Like, everything seems so. It's like a more pure situation, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, that was a fascination. I mean, it still is somewhat, but I haven't done it in a long time. Just to find abandoned houses, abandoned buildings, and go explore.
Well, we just did a photo shoot in an abandoned factory a couple months ago.
Yeah.
I was supposed to choose the location, and I was like, I want to do an abandoned building. So, yeah.
I have a question about that
Yes.
because, I do some amateur paranormal investigating, but I also like looking for old and weird places. These abandoned places you go to, you just go to them? Or is there any thing to worry about to keep away? Any?
Well,
I mean, if we were to do it now, I would probably either
I'm
Get
always
permission-
carrying a gun.
get permission of a landowner. Well, there's always that. But yeah, get permission from the landowner if
Okay.
there's a house on the property, or if there's no trespassing signs. If there's no trespassing signs, I think that building doesn't have any. Maybe.
I'm a bit of
There's a
a.
homeless person living in that building that we go to, so obviously the
Okay.
police aren't
But we usually
enforcing
bring him
that.
canned food and put it near his bed. So
Yeah, we have
Oh,
brothers.
that's nice. I don't as a conspiracy theorist, I don't really worry about the no trespassing signs when it's private property. I probably should, but I worry about sneaking onto some government secret. That's always what I worry about, but
Well, just
that's
so
not
you
going to
know,
happen with me.
The way the no trespassing signs work is, and I'm not, giving you permission to go on somebody's property that has no trespassing signs, but if you get on that property, they can tell you to leave, and that's fine. You can leave. I mean, obviously, they can't charge you, right?
Mm-hmm.
The police have to come there and tell you to leave, and then you have to refuse to leave.
Oh.
And then they can charge you.
Oh, so it's not even a big
you could
deal.
just leave and know nothing would
Oh,
happen.
well that.
They can't automatically get on the scene and charge you. They have to, give you a warning first to leave the property.
I'm going to be a terror
again.
on private property now.
And you'll be charged.
I'm just going to be everywhere. And just tell me to leave. I'll leave, but I'm going to show up tomorrow. Okay, so you're a youngster.
Yeah, so I was dealing with the law in that way, I guess a negative way, and then this is kind of a long story, but I'll just touch on it briefly. We had a friend's mom that was murdered, and it's a long story, but I ended up testifying against the killer, and actually we gave the police his name.
Mm-hmm.
He was at our house the night that it happened. Something that touched me and her and a lot of people. A lot of people will never be the same. But we got to see, or at least I got to see a side of law enforcement that I never saw prior to that. And I remember being at the station giving our statement, and they were getting ready to go pick this guy up, and I thought, man, these troopers are getting ready to go pick up like a truly evil person, take him off the street for good. And they kind of like flipped the switch in there. Like,
Okay.
all right, let's go ahead and pursue law enforcement. I believe I was 19 at the time. I took the state police test, West Virginia State Police test. There was an issue, and I gave it up for a little while. Worked various jobs. Gavin was born. I was working 3 jobs.
Yeah,
Respect
Gavin
the
was
hustle.
a baby when you were testing for the state police. That's
Yeah.
when Gavin, so
Yeah.
it was about
I was probably 21.
17 years ago.
So kind of just put it to the side for a little bit, and then tested again for the department I worked for 6 years when I was 30.
Okay. Now, I read what you sent me, your bio. You've had many cases. Great record, essentially. But one thing stands out specifically, and that was the capture of, you said, a cop killer in a forest.
Ended up being a cop killer.
To me, that sounds like a scene like right out of a movie. So just, what was the situation there?
What had happened is night shift. I think it was 11:30, 12, close to midnight. I went to question someone in reference to some vandalism, maybe attempted burglary call, and got the guy's address. He was just outside of city limits in the Charleston. And get to his house, just this shack by the railroad tracks, basically. And I hear some movement around the side of the house. I go around the side of the house, and I'm by myself. Hadn't even told, I don't even think I told my sergeant, which is a big no-no, where I was at and what I was doing. I might have called out with Metro, but I didn't give him specifics on what was going on. And I see this guy, and he takes off running, runs across the tracks. I take off after him, and
On foot.
Yeah, on foot. I'm out of the vehicle at this point. And there's a big embankment on the other side of the tracks, and it's like he's thinking about sliding down it, but he wasn't really sure what to do. So I made up his mind for him. I tackled him, and we went rolling down the embankment.
I like it.
And the river was there. I knew the river was there.
Yeah.
But I couldn't see anything. It was dark, And I had a short sleeve on. I usually just wore a short sleeve. I had this, old school leather jacket. It was super awesome, man. I bought it off eBay. It was like one of those old school cop leather jackets. It was a motorcycle jacket. Usually I'd just wear that if I got cold, but I had just a short sleeve on. We're rolling down the hill, and I'm just waiting for the splash. We're getting ready to go in the water. Luckily, when we stopped rolling, we were still probably 12 feet from the water. And it was weird at the bottom. He was the only one that had any injuries,
Oh.
There was no one around. We got to spend some quality time together.
Oh. I see. Okay.
So he had some decent injuries, and we could not.
Rough fall. It was a rough fall.
Yeah, it was a rough fall. We couldn't get back up the embankment. I mean, he was in no condition anyway. I couldn't even climb back up the embankment. So this is when I called my sergeant. Former Army Ranger, legit dude. I loved working with this guy. Told him where I was, and he said, well, I gave him the best description I could. I remember I could see a sign, one of those big green signs that said Charleston.
Yeah.
I said, man, we're on, I think it was Dunbar Avenue, or the road that transitions from Dunmore Avenue into Charleston. So we're on this road, man. We're underneath that big sign. We're down over the hill. So he comes, and we ended up having to call the fire department.
Okay.
And they throw down a rope, and I tie the rope around this guy, and they pull him up. And I ended up I climbed up.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's impressive.
Anyway, so he gets loaded up in an ambulance and take him to the hospital. I fall over in my cruiser because at this point he's under arrest. He's in custody. Get to the hospital. He has no ID whatsoever. So I get his name and date of birth. And I go back to my station and I run his information, run his criminal history. And I hear the printer. It's just going and going and going and going. I'm like, man, that's, you just never know who you got, right? So I went in and pulled the paperwork off, and first thing I'm starting to see is a couple charges. Like he had some child sexual abuse charges.
Oh no!
So I'm feeling. I mean, that's a bad thing, but I'm feeling good about
yeah,
myself.
Yeah, you took him off the street.
Yeah, keep seeing violent charges. There's every charge you can think of. Reference to drugs, theft, and then I'll see second-degree murder of a police. They called it a peace officer, but it's a police officer in California. He'd been convicted. I forget the date. It was maybe the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so convicted cop killer.
Oh wow! I mean, that sounds like an intense situation. That guy just was doing everything, though. Like,
yeah,
wow,
he was.
He was all over the gambit.
I heard he was making threats. It was about a month, maybe 2 months later. He was making threats towards me. I got word, so
now
I waited for him to come into town one night and stopped him, pulled him over, and see what he's wanting to do. Get up to his car window.
It's very Old West. I like it.
He doesn't even recognize me.
Yeah,
and his face still looked different.
Well.
Yeah.
Well, he shouldn't have
2
fallen
months.
down the hill.
2 months later.
Now, what led you out of being a police officer? Because obviously today there's a lot of social pressures, I guess, as a police officer. Did that play a role in it?
No, not at all.
Okay.
I endured,
Money.
Yeah.
Good answer.
I endured many of those cases, whatever you want to call them. The media gets hung up on.
Yeah.
We had many when I was a police officer. So it wasn't that at all. It
Okay.
It was basically what she said, just money. I liked, at times I loved what I do. Loved what I did. I made a difference in a lot of people's lives, good and bad. That guy that I talked about just a little bit ago, he'll never forget me.
Yeah.
Every time he looks in the mirror, he's going to remember me.
But we couldn't hardly afford to pay our bills, and he never got to go to wrestling matches, or basically I was, he doesn't like when I say this, and I of course he was there because I saw him every day, but I said I was married single because everything was on me because he was either sleeping or working swing shift, 12-hour shifts.
Yeah.
See, that's what I feel is unfortunate about the police right now, because I've spoken to a lot of officers I would consider bad officers. But from listening to you, you sound like you wanted to do good. If someone like you could have been compensated more, we would have better people out in the streets and not have so much conflict.
Exactly.
But, who am I? I'm just a fat comic.
I had from day one, I had a very exciting career. I experienced a lot. I've compared stories with guys from New York SWAT, and they're like, man, stuff.
He got to fire his gun like his first week out of the academy. I mean, it was at a pig.
I killed a wild. Yeah, that time. Yeah, that was a wild boar.
That was a hard left. That took a hard left.
So I knew right then, like, I'm gonna have an exciting career. And
Most people never even fire their gun.
Tons of pursuits, probably the most in the county. For 6 years.
Okay.
Tons. My bio has all kinds of stuff in there.
Yeah, it's very fascinating. Go ahead.
Humans and dogs bit by, just...
Yeah, I forgot to mention that. Humans and dogs. The dogs, understandable. I want to hear about the human who bit you.
That particular time we were serving a search warrant. And I was the first one. If I remember right, they wanted me to carry a shield, which I didn't like doing. If it was high risk, we thought there was going to be weapons in there. We had this shield we could use. If you don't train with that thing, like I trained a lot with my handgun and with, some other tools I had. knives and such. I was very good with my tools, right? Very comfortable if I had to use them. But they want me to carry this 75-pound shield that I never even. I've seen it. You saw it in the closet before, but I've never trained with it. They want me. I love to be first through the door. Just that ego. Like, I signed up to be a police officer. To experience a lot of things, to help good people. But also, I grew up watching Miami Vice.
Yeah, your bio reads like an action hero, if I'm being honest.
I wanted the action.
Yeah.
So I went in first with this shield and encountered a guy who was sleeping on a recliner. And I believe it was I can't remember, it might have been a no-knock warrant. In that case, you don't have to knock. You just kick in the door and go. But I encountered the guy, he's sleeping, and he wakes up. I remember, like, should I hit him with the shield? Like, just charge him and hit him with the shield? Or just put it down? Because I could tell he didn't have any weapons. So I decided to just put it down. We went hands-on. And in the midst of it, he bit, I think it was my pinky finger.
Oh.
Yeah, he chomped down on it pretty good. And we got him to release it. He ended up going to the hospital as well.
Oh, boy.
And I had to go, too, because I had to get a tetanus shot.
Yeah.
But, I talked to him. We put him in a car. And it was never personal. Well, maybe with that one guy, child molesters, it'll always be personal.
I can respect that.
No excuse for that.
I can respect that.
That's worse than the cop killer.
Put it out in the world out there that if you know me and you know I'm missing some teeth, do not think I'm still not a bite risk. I will chomp down with what I have left.
I went out was cruising and talked to him. I said, "Hey, man, do you have anything I need to be aware of?" And he apologized for fighting me and stuff. He just woke up to that, so I can't really blame him.
Yeah, that's a rough way to wake up.
Yeah, but I talked to him for a minute. Said, no hard feelings, man. But I need to know if you have something because he bit my finger and bleeding.
Yeah.
But everything was good. I went and got a tetanus shot.
Well, that's good. I see that you are a MMA veteran, and you have completed in jiu-jitsu and wrestling for many years. First off, I think it's very important for people in a police force to have proper training like that, jiu-jitsu and what have you. Yes. So I commend you on that. But can you elaborate on that a little bit more?
Yeah, so back when, I wouldn't even call it MMA. Back when I was doing it, it was kind of before MMA got started. I got out of it just as it was getting big. I'll tell you why I got out of it. And it has to do with it getting big. But, yeah, so I started in Japanese jiu-jitsu. And under my sensei was Warren Osley, rest in peace, passed a few years ago. Great trainer. And fought under him for a little bit. My first fight was 6 months after I started training. I was also training with a buddy of mine that I worked with at the time at a car dealership that was a great boxer. So I was teaching him some jiu-jitsu, and he was teaching me boxing.
Okay.
So I had a little bit of boxing, but most of it was just street fight. I was blessed with the right hand, so I have a lot of power in my right hand. But other than that, going into that fight, my first fight, I didn't have a lot of training. And that fight, I think you posted. That's the one you posted a while back. That fight, just to give you a little background on it, my fighter, I was fighting at 185 pounds. My fighter didn't show up, and I had there was like close to 1,000 people there to watch this fight.
Oh, wow. Okay, yeah, that sounds like a big fight. Bless you.
Bless you, man.
Thank you.
And we had probably 50 people that I knew of, not necessarily maybe to come see me fight, but 50 people that I knew, because there was a couple other people in the cards.
And you want to perform.
Yeah, I just wanted to fight. I didn't care who it was. So they came to me and said, hey, your guy didn't show up, but we have this other fighter. His guy didn't show up, but he's 205. Do you care? And I said, no, I don't care who it is. I got people here. I'm ready, and I want to fight. They took me in a meeting. He was getting his hands wrapped. He didn't really want to talk. So I was like, okay. So I went back to the dressing room, and just sitting there, I'm waiting to warm up.
Yeah.
I didn't really know when I was going to fight. I remember I was in there by myself. Hadn't had my hands wrapped or anything. When you get your hands wrapped, it's like a concrete block. It helps a lot. It's like a brick. Didn't have my hands wrapped. I was eating a Snickers bar, sitting there. I think I had my gi on, but that was about it. They come in and say, hey, Scott, you're up. I was like, I'm up.
Oh, so no warm up.
Like, I don't have gloves or anything on me. Like,
Yeah.
they throw me some gloves. Put the gloves on. I'm still chewing Snickers trying to get my mouthpiece in.
And your hands aren't taped.
Not taped. I just wrapped. There were 4-ounce gloves. I just wrapped them. There was like this little dinky thing for
Yeah.
the wrist. You know, there's no wrist support.
So he's already got a 20-pound advantage, and his hands are wrapped properly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and to come to find out later, I did not notice this, nor would I have cared. He was a black belt.
Mm.
I think in Taekwondo.
Okay.
But black belt is something, and black belts can be a little bit overrated, but still, he did something to get that black belt right. So yeah, I'm walking out here trying to get the Snickers out of my mouth and get the mouthpiece in, and go down, and the fight starts, and it ends well for me.
Okay.
Knockout.
Oh, congrats, man.
Yeah, I'll tell you, thank you, and I'll tell you, I learned something about civilization for society that day, because knocked him out, and it was a brutal knockout. It just lights out, right? And the crowd goes completely crazy. But that's not. I mean, when I remember leaving, like after they did the whole hand raising and all that, I remember walking down the steps and seeing. I was probably 23 years old at the time, maybe. I remember seeing just some middle-aged women, one in particular, just screaming bloody murder. I had no idea who this lady was.
Yeah.
And she's just like, screaming bloody murder. And it made me think of the Coliseum.
Yeah, the gladiators.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You could easily bring that back.
Oh, without question.
Yeah.
Without question.
People think that you can't? Yes, you could.
This is going to make me sound like a terrible person, but I would pay good money to watch that type of stuff.
People get torn up by lions.
Oh, my God. That's
I'm
like,
telling
I would watch
you have
that.
to bring them back slowly. Right?
Yeah.
You could
Start
bring
out
it back.
with a guy versus like a dog,
Yeah.
Something like that. Maybe a guy beats up a dog,
Yes.
one win, so it's possible. And like, how about a cougar,
Yeah.
that would be.
For somebody that doesn't even know me to be that happy about a violent knockout.
Yeah.
That always stuck with me, And I was young then. I didn't know much about
Yeah.
people, I mean,
Now,
I understand.
the martial arts. Would you say we have a wrestler over here?
Yeah, used to.
Well, yeah, they're both. Xander's actually belted in Japanese jiu-jitsu, and Gavin's belted in Japanese, and he's trying to get back into. He's in Brazilian now, but he's having some rehab back stuff that we're trying to get straightened out.
Okay. Anywhere you guys want to take that, or is just it's good to have for general life purposes, but any motivation with it?
That's about as far as it is. Just a little side thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's
Okay.
a belt system with Brazilian. That's what he's doing
Yeah.
now. That's what I end up getting into. So,
Brazilian is way more difficult than Japanese.
Yeah, I
superior.
never heard of Japanese jiu-jitsu. It's always Brazilian jiu-jitsu that I've
Yeah,
heard of.
Brazilian,
Japanese has
it's-
a lot of stand-up, a lot
Okay.
of kicks and punches.
Yeah, it's very superior as far as when you get to the ground.
Hmm. That's what I understand. Yeah.
Positioning. The black belt that I trained under, or got belted under, I got a blue belt, and then shortly after that, I quit. I'd like to go back and get my purple, which I hope maybe me and him can do together sometime.
Yeah.
Father, son, purple belt. That'd be nice.
I want to
Yeah.
say something about that night. That was the first time I had ever seen him fight, and I was really nervous. I didn't know how it was going to go. I was supposed to get a babysitter. It didn't work out, so I had to take my baby with me.
Oh boy.
And everything, and I was all nervous. And then he knocked the guy out, and then I was like, I like this. I think I can do this. Like I don't have any reason to be scared, and because he was really good, so it made it a lot easier to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. It's.
He
I'm
wasn't
sure.
getting beaten up. He was pounding on somebody.
I'm
and
sure it would have been a
I
lot
kinda
different if
liked
he
it.
was on the other side of it.
Yes.
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 No, because my late wife, I'm sure she would have been the same way. Like, if I would have fought, if I would have lost, it would have been never again. If I would have won, she'd be like, well, maybe we could do this,
Yeah, and also I can watch the punches and kicks all day long, but it's like the joint manipulation when if they don't tap, then I know something's going to break. That's what gets me.
Yeah. I did some training,
Yeah.
and I'm real stiff. So, like, when I would be in holds and whatnot, I was always worried that it was going to break because I'm so stiff for some reason.
That's why you tap.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
Ligaments and tendons will tear first before the bone will actually. You're better off a bone brace, really.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
Oh, yeah, you're talking major surgery for tendons and ligaments.
I didn't know any of that. Now, you're the owner of Ways for Hayes Fitness, LLC. That's something you creative and you do together?
Yeah, it's an LLC I created beginning of the year, maybe end of last year. And it's not active right now. I don't do anything with it. I think it's Warren Bennis that says, the more you learn, the more you earn.
Okay.
I don't feel right charging people. I still have a full-time career. So most of the stuff I do is pro bono at the moment. People can reach out to me.
By the way, it says he specializes in fat loss and weight management, weight training for muscular gain, strength, power, fat loss, and bone density, which is especially important for women, hormones, anti-aging, biohacking, improving performance, physical and mental, stress management, sleep issues, and digestion issues. But we're pre-programmed to overeat almost, aren't we? Is there something to that?
There is something to that, yes. So
transitions, that's what I'm good for, folks.
Yeah. So the way our ancestors used to eat, we're talking, 40,000 years ago, is they had what was called an optimal foraging equation, okay? And that then would equal the energy spent and the time spent to get that food.
Okay.
And the calories that food has, okay? Because you can't go out and spend a bunch of calories, and then, let's say you go out and expend 300 calories getting food, and that food only has 100 calories.
Yeah.
All right, that equation is not very good. So that's what they had built into their brains. All right, so when these tribes will go out and hunt, and there's still some tribes that are active today, the Hadza tribe is one of them. When they go out and hunt, obviously they're hunting for an animal, but if they come across an apple tree or a beehive, they will stop what they're doing and sit down and eat up to 30 apples. A lot of this work's been done by Stephan Guyenet, which actually gave a presentation on his book, which is called Hungry Brain. Mm-hmm. Excellent book. Dude, he's been on Joe Rogan podcast.
Honestly, I've been thinking this the whole interview. This is the closest interview I've ever had to feeling like Joe Rogan. Because it's not just crazy stuff. It's like an actual fascinating conversation. I'm really feeling the part today.
Well, thank you. Yeah, so I spoke with him on the phone for quite a while about his book and, before I presented on it. But he's done a lot of research on this. But, yeah, so they would sit down and eat up to 30 apples or oranges, whatever it may be, and equivalent to about half a gallon of honey. They would just gorge on it.
Oh, man.
Yeah, because they didn't know when they were going to come across it again.
Yeah.
And the thing with that food in particular, carbohydrates, sugar. Sugar is what fuels high-intensity activity, which back then was either fighting for your life, it's another tribe member or another tribe, or running from a saber-toothed tiger.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's very important. Carbohydrate fuels high-intensity activity. Fat would fuel like your everyday, just like we're sitting around now, or walking slow.
See, people think I'm just lazy, but I'm smarter than I look. I'm prepared to sit around all goddamn day.
Yeah, but if you're eating carbohydrates on top of that, then it's defeated.
Actually, I've been on the Carnivore Diet for about 6 months now, and I've dropped 55 pounds.
I want to talk to you about that
Go
the
ahead.
record.
Yeah. Oh, off the record?
Oh, no, I'm not shy. We can talk.
Yeah, bring it up.
Yeah, I have tons of gastro issues. I don't eat gluten. I actually debated on the carnivore diet just because I actually got my food to go. I just ate a little bit of eggs when we went to eat because I was afraid to eat my actual omelet because I didn't want to have a stomachache when we were sitting here. So I'm like, I'll eat when I get home. But there's no rhyme or reason. I cannot figure it out. I've had a hysterectomy. I've had this and that, testing, tubes everywhere. Nobody knows what's wrong with me. They're like, well, something's wrong. I don't know what it is. But I actually thought about that. How do you feel with the carnivore diet?
As physically, mentally,
Both.
all of it?
Yeah.
Phenomenal. I feel great. I feel healthier than I've been, my entire adult life. It's easy to follow.
Yeah.
It gets a little boring because it's just meat, but you can spice meat up,
right?
And I'm down to it now that I only eat a certain amount, but you can eat meat, until you're hungry. And when you know how when you eat a regular meal, you get that heavy feeling. Sometimes you get sluggish. There would be times early in the beginning where I'd eat 1.5 pounds, 2 pounds of ground meat and be full, but not feel like, ugh.
It's because you were eating those carbs before, which is why you had all the sluggish feelings and all that.
And
there's a lot of blood sugar.
The diet I'm on now, it's it's been the easiest for me to try because I could never stick to a regular diet, and it turned into a lifestyle change so quick. Like within a month and a half, I look at carbs like they're, I don't want no parts. I don't touch bread. I don't do none of that.
How did it affect your potty pattern in the beginning? That's my concern.
It was rough.
Okay, that's my concern.
At first, there was a lot of mixed greens, we'll call them. And then after that, we're like, whoa, hold up, don't throw anything else out. And that got, all right, this is crazy. And I actually broke my diet with chocolate laxatives because of that. But after like a month and a half, you regulate to it being a normal process.
Right.
So let me give you something you can do that'll help with that as well. And also just some of these tools. We have the carnivore diet, we have the keto diet, we have intermittent fasting. There's all these fads going on right now. And they all work, don't get me wrong. Some of them work because they cut out whole food groups. In your case, you're cutting out a lot of foods, right?
Yeah, a lot of them. You know what it is, though? For me, I can't, portion control. Like, it's, they say 2 ounces of this cheese. And, no, if I'm going to have it, I'm going to make it crazy.
That's, and kind of going back and forth here, but as far as, all right, we'll touch on this first. So the carnivore diet is mostly meat. You're going to have some fat in there too, depending on what type of meat you eat. Keto diet is actually mostly fat. A lot of people get it wrong, and they'll have too much protein. When you have too much protein, you're getting a lot of protein. A lot of that's converted, although you're not having any carbohydrates directly, a lot of it is converted via a process called gluconeogenesis to carbohydrates. It's converting a lot of that protein to carbohydrates. All right.
So his body is still reacting as though he's eating the carb?
No, you're not getting as much of the insulin spike or the blood sugar rise and the insulin issues. A lot of people nowadays have what they call insulin resistance.
Okay.
Or they eat carbs all day long. Their body doesn't know how to manage. They become insulin resistant. They make so much insulin, like their blood sugar rises, insulin's released to lower blood sugar, put it into the cells, but they're doing that so much that their body quits listening. The brain quits listening to insulin.
Okay.
It's like, there's no way. Like, this is too much, kind of like crying wolf.
Okay. Yeah. There's no way you need this.
Yeah.
Okay.
So insulin's elevated all the time, produces insulin resistance. And that's the issue. People cannot tap into their own body fat nowadays because they're eating carbohydrates. Say you get up, you have even something like oatmeal. Right? Blood sugar rises. Insulin rises. Insulin has to be low for your body to tap into its own body fat stores. But that never happens, right? Because people are eating carbohydrates all day long. And what that's called is you're metabolically inflexible.
Okay.
All right. You have 2 sources of energy. One of them's carbs, one of them's fats. They can only tap into carbohydrates. It's like a tanker truck, right? The tanker is running off of diesel, but he's hauling a lot of fat.
Okay.
All right. Let's say regular gas. If he runs out of diesel, he's not. No, this does not work with a truck, but we're just using this as an analogy.
He can't tap into that gas that he's hauling.
It's not able to.
Yeah.
It's like most people's bodies. You can't do that.
I never knew that.
One way you can increase insulin sensitivity, and even for an obese person, it can be done in as little as 3 days. It's just cut out carbohydrates for one, or have them around training, because your body, that's one benefit of exercise, your body's very insulin sensitive around training. It will get shoveled, sugar. I'll try to keep this short. She's already probably rolling her eyes at me.
No, I think about Xander. Xander always asks questions, and then he's just thinking, can I have some ice cream after dinner? And then it ends up being like a 2-hour lecture of, I know, it's like the Charlie Brown teacher. I just look at Xander, and he's just like, I know that he's not hearing it.
Yeah, just say no to the ice cream. I'm tired of hearing it.
Don't let him have it. It's just like certain times,
Well, did you train today?
Yeah. Did you have other carbohydrates with dinner? Do you think you really need it? Because carbohydrates ultimately need to be earned. But around training...
I like that. Carbohydrates need to be earned.
Really, and that's the way I've treated them for a long time. But you upregulate things called GLUT4 translocators and all this stuff around training. So insulin is able to shuttle glucose where it needs to be. Okay, instead of being stored as fat. That's the short of it, without getting too complicated. So, what you can do if you want to introduce some carbohydrates, and also just good for back, because that's the issue with keto and carnivore. There's no fiber in there.
Yeah.
I
know.
And my mentor Joel Green, which I've mentored under for the last year, is an absolute expert with immunity and gut bacteria, and I've learned a lot from him. He wrote a book called The Immunity Code, which is excellent. I constantly, source things out of there and look through there. Constantly learning from it, but gut bacteria is everything as far as immunity, as far as fat loss. Everything is involved with the gut. I mean, there's even a gut-brain connection.
Okay.
Crazy, but what you can do is things like oatmeal, potatoes, that's sweet and regular potatoes, rice, and this is not something you cook, but green bananas, semi-green bananas.
Okay.
All right. When you cook any of those foods, like the rice and the oatmeal and the potatoes, and cool them, preferably overnight, but you can even stick them in the freezer. Sometimes if I'm in a hurry, I'll stick them in the freezer for 30 minutes. When you cool them, you turn them into a resistant starch. And when it's resistant, it passes through the small intestine, undigested. Okay.
Oh.
It goes to the large intestine, the colon, and it feeds the good. In short, there's a lot of terms I could be using here and go into a lot of rabbit holes, but in short, it feeds the good bacteria. It's a prebiotic.
Okay.
Probiotics, right?
Yes.
Probiotics are a pill you swallow, but you don't know where they're going. Right?
Yeah.
Your gut is a 360-degree bolus. Okay, it has enterocytes on it. They're supposed to collect certain bacteria, right? You throw that probiotic down there, you don't know where it's going. It could be feeding bad bacteria.
Yeah.
Which most people have a lot of from eating too much sugar. Okay, but the resistant starch.
By the way, not to go off on another tangent, but cutting the sugar out of my life too.
Yeah.
I can't describe how good I feel in comparison, because I never thought I felt bad until now that I feel good. I was like, oh man, I was really sludgy. Like, it was terrible. No sugar, it feels amazing.
Once you get out of it, then you stop craving it.
Yes.
Also.
That's another thing that I learned from him. He actually, I don't know if he wrote about it in his new book, but it's in his audio book. He mentions me. But anyway, that you feed good bacteria. Mm-hmm. It creates something called bifidobacteria, which feeds butyrate. Butyrate's what lines your gut lining. And their resistant starches are great. And they're going to pass through the small intestine, which meaning they're not going to spike your blood sugar.
Okay.
As they normally would, especially something like white rice or a white potato. Oatmeal, sweet potatoes aren't too bad as far as spiking blood sugar.
Is brown rice better than white rice?
It's not any better.
No, it's not better at all?
It's going to be hard to digest as well.
Oh, because of the coloring?
Yeah, I think there's something called phytic acid. There's a few things in there, but
oh man,
white rice is very, very easy to digest.
The time kind of got away with me with this interview, but I still want to get before we end this. I want to get on the program to overeat subject. I don't want to forget about that.
So they're programmed where they'd sit down and eat as much fruit or honey as possible because they didn't know when they were going to get next. Mm-hmm. So that's, in short, how they're programmed, right? And it evolved very slowly. So they started cooking their meat, which is great because they used to eat it raw.
Yeah, I'm a big proponent of cooking meat. I'm all for it.
When you cook it, of course, they made it easier digestible. They killed some parasites and some bacteria. All right, that was a very good thing, okay? And they started making bone broth. When they started making bowls and different utensils, they made bone broth, which is still a very good source. Mm-hmm. But then it started getting more concentrated into things like soy sauce and different sauces, right? And then it culminated in 1908 when a Japanese researcher made MSG.
Okay.
So where this is leading to is they're concentrating when it hits your tongue, it's that glutamate umami flavor, all right, that leads back to meat, which is great, all right? But it's not meat.
There's a lot of sodium in that, right?
Yeah. And we won't touch on sodium, but sodium is actually great for you.
Okay.
But that's another tangent I'm going to get on in 20 minutes. So, Chinese people, buffets, it's MSG all over everything, right? And it makes you eat more of it, and it makes it just taste better. All right, you're going to keep coming back for it. When your brain values, when you eat something like a Snickers bar or an Oreo or a Lay's potato chip, there's a certain amount of fat, sugar, and salt in there that creates what is called a bliss point.
Mm-hmm.
And companies pay millions of dollars for scientists to create this. And what happens is your brain values that so much because it's so calorie dense, leading back to the way we're wired ancestrally. Say this is a very valuable food. Eat as much of it as you can.
So it's like we're programmed to like junk food.
Exactly.
Like because it's such high calorie.
Yeah, we didn't have to spend much money for it. It's cheap.
Yeah.
We didn't spend any time for it, right?
Great trade-off.
Yeah. Normally you have to cook a little bit, right?
Yeah. Not like Burger King, Wendy's, fast food. You know, just boom.
So we're programmed that way, which is fine. But we don't need to eat that way because we have fast food and sheets and everything at every corner, right? We're always minutes away from food, so there's no need to sit down and
we are
yourself.
Minutes away from food. I never thought of it like that.
And I watch people I've worked with over the years. They, whether it's like free donuts or free pizza, every time they walk by it, it's just like something's just, it's free and it's high calorie. But they don't know why they're doing it. I mean, of course, that tastes good.
Well, it used to be feast or famine, so they would feast when they could find food. But then we can always find food, so we're just always feasting rather than
we're still prey.
We're not doing the famine.
How does
Our
one
genes have not changed in 40,000 years.
break that cycle then?
I want to call it willpower, but it's not willpower.
Okay.
I used to believe in willpower. I used to say, I have a lot of willpower. But willpower is finite. It's not something you can always just tap into. The more decisions you make throughout the day, your willpower eventually runs out.
Yeah.
It just does.
That's why you make bad decisions at 2 a.m.
Yes. Yeah, and alcohol leads to GABA inhibition and all kinds of things. But so even when I leave work, knowing this, there's a huge parking lot where I work. Instead of deciding what cars I'm going to cut between to get to my car, I choose the same way each time. There's a sidewalk. It takes a little bit longer. There's no decision making. So just little things like that.
So pattern.
Yeah, but it's less decisions.
Okay.
Like guys like Zuckerberg. Is that the one that owns Facebook?
Yeah.
His outfits are predetermined. Like he knows what he's going to wear every day.
I think Einstein did that too.
Yeah, a lot of
something
people
like
do
that. We get overwhelmed with choice anymore. I don't know if you guys. I've been to restaurants before where I've looked over the menu and I'm just so overwhelmed with, choice is good. Don't get me wrong, but sometimes it's overwhelming. You go to a restaurant. How do you want that? Black, brown? Okay. Well, eggs like that. Just give me something to eat.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So. Yeah, they want to make important decisions later on. Those guys, right? Einstein and Zuckerberg, they have more important decisions to make. More, so they limit their decisions, so they'll have more brain energy later on. So that's part of it, and I believe it is self-discipline.
Okay,
that's what you need.
Everyone's
talking about moderation. The 80-20 rule, which is fine. I allow myself a little bit of junk food too. But it's easier to do 100% than it is 98%. When you say, I'm not having that, you're not having it. There is no, well, maybe I'll have it this time and I'll cut it out tomorrow. When it's 100%,
a little bit of it.
It's no.
Okay.
And everybody at work knows, like, when it's time to order out, like, they'll ask me, they're being nice.
You want something?
They know I'm not.
But they know it's going to be no. I tell you what, I've done that partially with eliminating choices in my wardrobe because every shirt I try to wear is an Inquisitive Minds podcast shirt. You guys can get yours. Link in the description. Check out all our merch. Pick something up. Help support the podcast. And before I forget, Roast War Championship is back in Pittsburgh. It's called Unshackled, and it's back January 9th at the Parkway Theater. And I am the main event, and I'm going against Skywalker. Check that out, guys. More details to follow. And catch me on a recent podcast I did called Talking with Shadows, where I sat down with Marcus D. to discuss the adrenochrome conspiracy. Well, this has all been very interesting.
So much more to talk about.
Yeah, I feel like I've just scratched the surface. If you guys want to come back in the future, sure. I'd love to have you because I found halfway through the episode I just have to mention something about nutrition, and you can carry the rest of the show.
Yeah,
I love it. We didn't necessarily get to talk all about like the entertainment industry, but again, is there anything? Yeah.
Well, we do have Xander and I were in a movie called Godsend recently. It's kind of in the rough stages. It's done. We're waiting for that.
Let me interrupt you real quick because my next thing was going to lead in. It was going to say anything you guys want to promote. Where can we find you?
Okay,
so just
I have my list.
So go at it. Have at it.
So we are part of the Burning Bulb family, Burning Bulb Productions. They do books, they do movies, they actually have Christian films, they have horror films. It's pretty broad, but we've basically been told we have a permanent home with them. And I do know that they have 5 projects coming up, hopefully within this next year. So fingers crossed that we'll get to be on screen some more. But Xander just had his premiere at the end of October for Midnight. And that is a remake of John Russo's 1984 cult classic. So much fun. We met so many awesome people there. But most of our films are now with Burning Bulb Publishing. And also, Gavin said that he's not really into modeling, but every time he goes somewhere with us, with Xander for, be a supportive brother, they're like, oh, you got to do this too.
You know what? And just sitting here across the studio from him, take this however you want it. You look like a model. Mm-hmm. Just lean into it, man. Just deal with it.
I know. I'm like, come on. You can make bank on your face. Yeah. Why would you not do that? And he's like, I guess they can take my picture. Option. But it's already been rescheduled at least 3 times. But if it's not rescheduled this time, February 13th at the Hilton Gardens in South Point, they have a fashion show with Dress Hut. It's actually for the Allegheny County's prom project, where they raise money for children that can't afford their prom dresses or whatever, which I don't even know if they have prom anymore. I don't really know exactly how it's all going to work or if this is even going to happen. Yeah. But if it happens, then February 13th we'll be back up here for them looking all handsome in their tuxedos. Okay, February 13th. What day of the week is that? I don't know. Okay. Fair enough. Is there a website to it or? I will. This is Dress Hut. It's Saturday. It's a Saturday. Okay. Dress Hut, Haute. I think it's a store in the mall where the Robinson Mall. Okay. Maybe. I think there's a dress shop there. That's who's sponsoring them. But it's going to be a big event. I think a bunch of dress shops are all participating in this. I mean, anybody has any questions, I brag about these boys all the time on my social media. So if you have any questions about Dress Hut, that fashion show, or any of the movies or anything like that, then Sarah Hayes on Facebook. Okay. And how about you? You want to promote Ways of Hayes at all? Is there a website someone could reach out to you, or an email address? People reach out to me on Instagram. It's Ways of Hayes Fitness, I believe. It is Ways of Hayes Fitness. They can message me on there, or Facebook. I'm under Scott Hayes. And I'll help out however I can. Okay. Pro bono right now is all I'm doing. I am writing a book. I have a brand called Winning Tactical Encounters, mainly geared towards law enforcement, but it could be any first responder or special forces in the military. Mm-hmm. This book's mainly towards nutrition and supplementation. There'll be several others, of course, communication skills and stress and sleep issues, but that's hopefully going to be released February, maybe. Sarah's writing a book as well. She's working out the details on it. That will blow mine away. Just to say, but she's got some things to figure out on how to write it. But when she does, it's going to be phenomenal. I've been speaking with my publisher, and I'm trying to figure out how to go. I'm going to have to do it under a pen name because I have a very, very dark history. Very dark. People, if they knew my story, they're like, how do you even get out of bed? But I am not only surviving, I'm thriving. That's which wonderful. Which is why I have to write my book, because I came from this, and look at me now. That's a beautiful story. I love it. So I feel like I need to, even if I can't use my own name. Fair enough. Gentlemen, anything you'd like to add?
No, nothing I can think of.
No?
I appreciate the honesty.
I'll talk about a few books that people know, the things we talked about. Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. I'm sorry, say that again? Think and Grow Rich. Think and Grow Rich? Think and Grow Rich. Oh, okay. Think and Grow Rich. Sorry, I've had too much coffee. I'm probably talking too fast. But, The Secret, which is about the law of attraction. Now, there's many books on it. There's one called The Master Key, which was written like in the early 1900s by Charles Handel. But if you get this book called The Secret by Rhonda Byrne, I think it's her name, it gives you everything you need. And I truly used it with my career. I tripled my salary within 2 years. Even picturing the clothes I was going to wear to work is what I work. What I wear now to work. I mean, everything was pictured and visualized in advance. So I've used it Sarah's used it. I'm pretty sure the boys have used it.
Well, Xander uses it and doesn't realize because he's so like I said, he's like, yeah, I'll get the part, and then he always gets the part. And
that's amazing.
Yeah, he's actually the most chilled, laid back boy yet when he has a camera on him. Not so much now, I know, because we're talking too much, but he just go with the flow. Like, he doesn't care. He's like, I'm Xander. This is who I am. You like me or you don't. Here I am. And he goes with that, and it works for him.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you all for coming in. It was amazing having you. Great opportunity. I hope we can get you back on in the future at some point, because this was so fascinating to me. Guys, check out the Teespring store. You know where to find me on social media if you're still listening to me at this point. Check out What in the History with my co-host Dan Brady. That's all. Enjoy your days.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.